It is the Jesse Kelly Show, final hour of the Jesse Kelly Show on a magnificent Monday, a Marine Corps birthday, and it's going to be, well, it's already been a great day. It's going to be a great night. So we're going to do some things this final hour. I am going to get to some emails. I'm going to talk briefly about a couple things, about how they look at us, why they look at us that way. I'm talking about the communists, how they look at us. A really sad piece of audio from a World War II veteran frigging gutted me. All that and more coming up in the final hour of the Jesse Kelly Show. I'm going to read this email, as a matter of fact, because I'm going to piggyback off this with something else. Jesse, I heard today 82% of voters in New York said that Republicans are responsible for the shutdown. How do the well-informed and Republican politicians get the accurate information out there? Your thoughts? So I wanted to piggyback off that with something Ken Burns said. It's an audio bit that's been making rounds. Ken Burns, he's the guy who makes the documentaries. Many of them are pretty good, by the way. He made a good one on the American West. There's one on the Civil War is awesome, so I hate to say it, but that dirty commie makes pretty good documentaries. But he said something that is revealing. He didn't mean for it to be, but it is.
It's a big deal. They killed the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Incredibly short-sighted. It'll hurt mostly rural communities. Maybe that's their intention. There'll be news deserts. Nobody will be covering the school board or the city council meeting. They'll miss not only the children's and primetime programming, but they'll miss, Homeland Security stuff.
Okay. You stupid people in rural America. Maybe that's you. All you had to rely on was PBS. Other than that, don't you still use Pony Express? You don't even have do you even have electricity? I had a buddy ask me one time after I moved to Montana if we rode horses to school. So there are a couple different things going on here. The first one of those things is this. A long time ago, I talked to you about Herbert Marcuse, that name, that old communist Herbert Marcuse. He's one of the ones who was really a pioneer of this. Antonio Gramsci, the Italian communist, was a pioneer of this. But a long time ago, the communists decided they needed a different audience if they were going to conquer the free countries of the planet. The communists, when they conquered Russia, when they turned it into the Soviet Union, they used malcontents. Who were the malcontents in the Soviet Union, in Russia? It was the urban poor. People in large urban areas could not feed themselves, couldn't feed their families, working their fingers to the bone. They became the foot soldiers of the communist revolution in the Soviet Union. And so, very naturally, you would assume that model, hey, we took down the largest country on the planet, one of the oldest countries on the planet, a very powerful monarchy. If we could take down that in the Soviet Union, in Russia, surely that would work everywhere, right? The model we used was the urban poor use their anger, take it down. So they brought it to China. We talked about this before. They got with Mao and the communists in China. And Mao and the communists in China argued relentlessly with them and said, you morons, we don't have this large contingent of angry urban poor people here. We have a pretty large contingent of angry rural poor here, but not urban. So you got to switch. Oh, okay. So they switched. They found a different group of malcontents. Are you noticing any consistency here? It's always the largest group of angry people, malcontents, the religion of the malcontent. That's what I tell you communism is all the time. But as communism started to move into the free countries of the world, obviously America, Canada, many countries in Europe, as communism started to move into there, they ran into something. They couldn't find large groups of poor people who were malcontented. Not urban, not rural. The peasant, the worker was stable and happy. He may not be in a mansion, but he had a job, provided for his family. They were not starving. It may not have been T-bone steaks every night, but they were not starving. They were largely provided for and happy. Well, what to do? What to do? You still have to have your revolution, of course. And here's what they figured out. Workers, we need to set this aside. Herbert Marcuse, I want you to go read Herbert Marcuse if you'd like to research this. He talked about it, and he was very, very, honestly, he was very frank about it, very black and white about it. These workers are dumb. Total disappointment. Why aren't they signing on? But whatever, they're not signing on. Let's move on. We have to get involved in the civil rights movement. All kinds of malcontented people there. They went looking for new groups of malcontents. Always new groups of malcontents. And something else really started to sweep through the communist movement. A disdain for the workers themselves. A disdain for it. Read Herbert. Read what he says, the way he talks about them. It's not just that these workers in the United States of America and other places, it's not just that they weren't signing on for the revolution. It's, why are you so stupid? Why are you so stupid? We're fighting a revolution for you, peasant. Why are you so stupid that you won't believe in it? You're supposed to believe in it. Can't you see? It worked in Russia. It worked in China. Why are you so dumb? A real disdain for them, really looking down on them. And that has brought us to where we are today, where the modern day Democrat Party is the party of the urban wealthy and the disloyal foreigner. It's the urban wealthy and disloyal foreigner. That's what the Democrat Party has become. The foreigners will set aside. We've already discussed them. But these super wealthy urban Democrats now, when they look at, have you seen a congressional map of America? Of course you have. If you haven't, feel free to look it up right now in case you're driving. Look at a congressional map of America. The last election. Look at that one. It's just a sea of red. It's red. Everything. The country is blood red, except for these urban centers, which are blue. And so these elitist Democrats in these urban centers look at that congressional map. That's what they're looking at. That's what they're thinking about. And they have such disgust for the rest of the country. You in your small town. Maybe you even have a little property or know somebody who is. You're so stupid. You essentially live in a news desert.
It's a big deal. They killed the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Incredibly short-sighted. It'll hurt mostly rural communities. Maybe that's their intention. There'll be news deserts. Nobody will be covering the school board or the city council meeting. They'll miss not.
You can scream at the radio all you want. We have electricity. We have internet. We have a million different ways to get the news. We have podcasts and radio shows, and we still have television. You can yell that all you want. But the truth is, what you should be hearing when they talk like that is, you're just too stupid. You're so stupid. Surely if you had any brains, you would live in the city. You'd live in an urban area. I've seen that congressional map. It's so red. I bet you live in one of those red areas. Must be a real news desert out there. Still riding horses to school? That's how they think. And the problem is, you have a very difficult time, all humans do, hiding disdain for people. Some people are better at it than others. But most human beings, if you really are disgusted by someone, it kind of comes out. You can't hide it forever. It comes out. The disgust Democrats have with rural America is palpable. It is palpable. They automatically assume, well, you're an idiot. If you weren't an idiot, you'd live in the city. In fact, you're too stupid to buy into Democrat politics. That's your problem. You're just too stupid and uneducated. It must be that news desert, always looking down your nose at the people. Now, that's one aspect of it. There's another aspect of it. It'll actually come back to the email about informed, well-informed. Because it is rather funny, if you think about it, that guys like Ken Burns on their 15th booster shot, who think Trump called Nazis very fine people, why does this guy who believes so many things that aren't true, why does he think you're uninformed in a news desert? We'll talk about that in a moment. It is the Jesse Kelly Show on a wonderful, wonderful Monday. Remember, you can email us, jesse@jessekellyshow.com. So back to what we were discussing. 82% of voters in New York said Republicans are responsible for the shutdown. And we were talking about news and news deserts and whatnot. Remember this also, that you have lived, unless you're about 6 years old listening to me. In fact, you have too. You just don't remember it. You have lived through the most dishonest period of time in the history of the United States of America. Let me explain. We've talked forever about how the communists wormed their way through all of our institutions, all of them, medical institutions and media institutions, the FBI, CIA, CDC, all of them, all institutions. And how those institutions, now that they've been conquered by the same sick religion, they all work together. And it's what I call the system. Okay, you got all that. We've talked about it before. But that reached its peak over, I'd say, the last 5 or 6 years. That reached its peak. And the result of that was the system could make large percentages of the population believe things that were not true at all. Normally, look, if we go back to 1990, your parents or grandparents, they knew they were getting bias on the news. No matter which way they leaned politically, they knew if the stories were getting twisted. We woke up and they would just tell outright lies on the news. They would just stare at you right in the face and tell you the sky is green, as we discussed before. Water isn't wet. They would get on the news, and not only would NBC say it, you flip over to ABC, water isn't wet. NBC, water isn't wet. CNN, water isn't wet. The CIA puts out a statement that water isn't wet. The CDC agrees. This elite scientist at Stanford puts out a statement, water isn't wet. Everybody's saying water isn't wet. All these institutions, once they got complete capture, they all told huge outright lies. Now, you obviously don't remember those days fondly. I know I certainly don't. It was you and me screaming with our blood pressure going through the roof at the ridiculous lies that were told. Everyone stands 6 feet away from each other. Gosh, you morons. But those were the best of times if you were an American communist. A global communist too, but we'll make it about America. If you were an American communist, if you were a Democrat, an elected Democrat, maybe just your liberal Aunt Peggy, if you were a communist like Ken Burns, if you were any of these people, it was the best of times for you, where you had finally taken every single institution and you could tell any lie you wanted. Anything. You could go and you could say Donald Trump told people to inject themselves with bleach, and even though it's on camera what he actually said, people would believe it. Joe Biden launched his presidential campaign on a black and white outright lie. Do you remember? When he launched his campaign, he said, I launched it because Donald Trump called Nazis very fine people. That's what he said. The Democrat president, he was the Democrat nominee, and then the Democrat president, who was just president a year ago, launched his campaign on a black and white lie. That's how completely captured, don't worry about getting it, Chris, don't worry about it. That's how completely captured the entire system became. And you may look back on that and think, that was awful. That sucked. What a period of dishonesty. But Democrats don't look back on it and think that. Democrats look back on it and think, finally, we controlled everything. We could tell whatever lie we wanted. I keep coming back to it, but it'll never stop being funny to me. 60 Minutes, CBS had to write a big check to Donald Trump for flat out lying about what Kamala Harris said in an interview. They edited the whole thing, and after lying to their audience, having to stroke a check for it, Scott Pelley got up in front of people and basically said, it wasn't just him, but Brian Stelter, all of them, they basically said, we can't even do journalism now. Well, if I can't lie, how am I supposed to do my job? I have to lie. That's what I do. I'm a liar. I lie about everything on behalf of the revolution. And if I can't, well, I might as well quit. What an admission. Why do these people say things like, you're in a news desert? Well, it's not because you're in a desert. It's because you discovered they're all liars.
It's a big deal. They killed the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Incredibly short-sighted. It'll hurt mostly rural communities. Maybe that's their intention. There'll be news deserts. Nobody will be covering the school board or the city council.
Could you imagine what it must be like to live in a news desert? If you lived in a news desert where you couldn't get real news, you probably believe that Donald Trump colluded with Russia. You probably believe that stupid booster shot is actually going to stop you from spreading COVID around. You probably believe that Donald Trump called Nazis very fine people. You believe he's Adolf Hitler. You believe that George Floyd was killed by a racist white supremacist cop in Minneapolis. You believe that COVID came from a bowl of bat soup in Wuhan. Just think about all those crazy things you would believe if you lived in a news desert. This is how these people think. They're not angry about your news desert. They're angry that you're finally informed. We'll do some emails next. It is the Jesse Kelly Show on a wonderful, wonderful Monday. And why is it wonderful? If you need me later on tonight, you can find me. If you show up at my house, I will be standing in the backyard in my underwear, loudly singing the Marine Corps hymn at the top of my lungs. The neighbors have already been so informed. All right, Chris, so explain to me. Jewish producer Chris was saying during the break that you're excited for Thanksgiving, and then you questioned my excitement or lack thereof for Thanksgiving. First of all, what do you guys make, a special order of matzo ball soup or something like that? What are you excited for Thanksgiving? How am I not excited? Okay, so let me explain. I like Thanksgiving. Okay, I'm a Thanksgiving fan. And I'm not going to go off on my turkey, go off the way I do every year. I'm not going to go off on that yet. Let me explain. Because of the government shutdown, which I know is now coming to an end, we canceled our Thanksgiving travel plans. We were going to travel back to Ohio to do Thanksgiving with Ob's family. It was fine. We canceled those plans. We just weren't sure. We didn't want to risk getting stuck back there. Whatever. Cancel the plans. Now we are going to go to a neighbor's house and have Thanksgiving with a bunch of different families. Okay. I was asked, Ob is doing the coordinating, what we should bring for a side. And of course, Ob, who's this, which is amazing for what a weird health freak she is, she's this world-class baker. You name it. You name it, breads, sweets, cakes, pies, cobblers. She does it better than anybody I've ever known in my life. So she's going to make that. Ob asked me, she said, do you want to bring a meat of some kind? To which I, of course, said, yes, I would. I'm a meat man. All right? She asked what I was going to make. I said, I'm going to make a brisket. I could tell by the look on her face that was not going to fly, but I could also tell she felt she was in a situation where she had to softly land the plane instead of just being like, no, because then I would just dig my feet in and make the brisket anyway. She informed me, and she wasn't wrong. She said, Jesse, they're making a turkey. Do you think you should show up with a brisket? She's not wrong. You show up with a brisket that's been smoked for 24 hours. When they're making a turkey, then you look like Tommy Topper. Now, what, Chris? What? Chris said, it's not my fault their turkey sucks. No, listen, it's not about that. I dearly love these people. They're wonderful people. You can't show up with a brisket when they're serving turkey. Then you just came in over the top and you curb stomped the people who are gracious enough to host Thanksgiving. I am upset because this Thanksgiving, I have no control over the menu. And the one thing I wanted to bring, I cannot bring, and I was 100% justified to say so. I can't bring the brisket. It would be bad form. It would be a bad friend. Okay, Chris, you just said smoke a ham. Why are you not understanding this? All right? You can't bring another main meat. You can't bring another main meat when he's making the main meat. Chris, you're a guy's guy, and you like to cook things. You know what I do when I do make a brisket, when I smoke a brisket? We have people over oftentimes. And you know what I want? I know it's shallow. I know it's terrible. I want everyone to try it. And I stand there while everyone tries it because I want to hear how good it is. I want everybody to eat it, and I want to say, well, that's the best thing ever. Oh, my gosh, I love it. I know it's shallow. I know it is. I know I'm not a great person. Let's say this guy, and I think he is. I think he's smoking a turkey, which is the best way. By the way, I will even eat smoked turkey. Smoked turkey is not bad. Not bad. Not okay. It's whatever, Chris. It's not bad. He's going to want everybody to gather around, as any man would, and he's going to want people to say, "Wow, best turkey ever! Thanks for the turkey. I love the turkey." I can't bring in a ham or a brisket I can't do that to him. What if I smoked a brisket and then some guy shows up and he's got a tenderloin that he was working on? Does it mean it's better than my brisket? No, but you may choose his over mine. Now I'm disappointed you can't do it. You know I'm right. You know I'm right, Chris. What if I provide him a ham? How do you think that looks, Chris? Hey, I heard you're making a garbage turkey. Here's something decent you can make. How am I supposed to sell that, Chris? Do you even think about this? And what do you know about ham? You're Jewish. Jesse, I was watching a Netflix series called Death by Lightning. It's about the assassination of President Garfield. It's the true story of an opposing New York senator creating a false national threat, and with the media's help, that led to a malcontent to shoot the president. What we see today is history repeating itself time again. Do you think there will be more attempts on President Trump's life? Do you know if he wears body armor? So on and so forth. Okay, so first of all, do you remember Charlie Kirk's memorial? Do you remember, if you watched any of it or saw the highlights, do you remember the glass that they all gave their speeches behind? That's bulletproof glass. That is now, because communists are demonic and evil, that is now going to be the norm in American politics for I don't know how long, but for a very long time, that will be the norm. Donald Trump, someone already shot him in the head. They almost shot him at the golf course. His personal security stuff, what I know, I'm not going to tell you, but there have been an elevated level of understanding what they're dealing with. I'll put it that way. They really get it. When you watch the man get shot in the head, you understand that Democrats are not playing. They're really violent people, really evil people. We watched as Democrats, thousands of them, celebrated the assassination of a 31-year-old young man. Violent, evil people. You asked, are there going to be more attempts on Donald Trump's life? There could be. Certainly could be. I have a different concern. Not that I'm not concerned about that, believe me. I'm concerned about J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is young. I think there's going to be a moment of realization amongst the communist animals in this country that Donald Trump has won his last election. He's not going to run again. He's not going to be in politics. And I think there's going to be a realization that J.D. Vance has a very good chance of becoming the next president of the United States of America. And given his age and his youthful enthusiasm, has a beautiful young family, good sense of humor. He has a lot of things that you're going to fear politically. I think Democrats are going to realize that this is a human being that maybe they should be afraid of. And that's bad. Actually, it's funny you brought this up. Not funny, but talked to Ob about it the other day. I said, J.D. Vance better be a very careful man. A very careful man. And people think, well, he has a Secret Service. Yeah, Trump had the Secret Service at that rally in Butler. That don't think just because you have armed security that all of a sudden you're fine. That's not how it is at all. I'm worried. I've told you many times. I think they're going to kill more of us. It's the way it is. Look, when you tell people over and over again, I mean, look, this is a leftist. Listen to this.
Whoever gets footage of that first ICE agent that actually gets one straight through the skull, please post that. Or just DM me it. That would be wonderful. Thank you.
This is how they talk all the time. Not one or two. Thousands of them. It is the Jesse Kelly Show, final segment of the Jesse Kelly Show on a wonderful Monday. Don't forget you can email us, jesse@jessekellyshow.com. So I heard this. This is a World War II veteran. He was on Good Morning Britain, and it was just a freaking bummer, man. But it's hard not to understand it.
My message is, I can see in my mind's eye there was rows and rows of white stones of all the hundreds of my friends and everybody else that gave their lives for what? The country of today. No, I'm sorry. The sacrifice wasn't worth the result that it is now.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
What do you mean by that, though?
What we fought for, and what we fought for was our freedom. We find that even now it's darn sight worse than what it was when I fought for it.
Man, doesn't that bum you out? But I don't want you to be bummed out. I want you to be happy. Jewish producer Chris asked me during that wonderful song where Tripoli was. And look, I'm a Marine, not a geologist. I don't know where everything is here. Jesse, I know several people that don't pay attention to politics or issues as close as I do. I started doing, pay attention to this, by the way. I love this. I started doing the research and making cheat sheets for these people. My sister was at work one day a couple election cycles ago, and one of her coworkers said, I should really go vote, but I'm just not sure who to vote for. My sister slid her a cheat sheet and told her this is who to vote for. If you would like to get involved in politics, and maybe you don't know how, or maybe you're too introverted, or maybe, whatever, consider a cheat sheet. If you're already involved in politics, please consider a cheat sheet. You think I haven't used them? I've used them from friends before, politically involved friends. Maybe I was a little hazy on something or this candidate or what. Hey, do you have a sheet? My politically involved friends either have one or they create one. It can be texted. It can be mailed, or I should say emailed. No one, I guess, is probably going to mail these things. You can, if you would like, put it in note card form, print it out in note card form so you can just slide it to somebody. That is a great way to be politically involved. These little wins, these little interactions stack up to very, very big wins. They prevent us from getting completely wiped out. Consider it, all right? Sauce lover. Just wondering if you've tried Frank's Red Hot Diablo sauce at Taco Bell. It comes as a topping on some of their only for a limited time tacos. His name is Brandon. All right. I've seen it. The Frank's Red Hot Diablo. And I'm a hot sauce man. I'm definitely a Buffalo Ranch style man. I will make my own. In fact, there's nothing better to dip pizza in than by taking some ranch, get some buffalo sauce in there and really buffalo it up and dip that in there. I like the looks of it. I have not tried it yet, and here's why. One, I do try to limit my fast food now that I'm 44. But by the way, I still eat fast food. I'm still an American. I just try to limit it. That's one. But two, once you've been burned by somebody, it's hard to get trust back, isn't it? Wouldn't you agree? Trust is very hard to get back once somebody has violated your trust. It was not too long ago, Doritos brought back one of the great chips of all time, Blazing Buffalo and Ranch was the flavor. They brought it back, limited time. Then they took it away again. Taco Bell itself brought back one of the great fast food menu items ever, the Mexi Melt. They had beef Mexi Melts, or my preference, the chicken Mexi Melts. Unreal. You can't even imagine how good they were. Brought them back for like a week and then gone again. What this has done is I don't trust Taco Bell now. I am worried that if I give them my trust again, what if I fall in love with this Frank's Red Hot Diablo? What if I love it? Are they just going to take it away from me again? What, Chris? Chris said, better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. You know what Tommy Lee Jones' character says to Will Smith's character when he tells him that in a movie? Tommy Lee Jones had lost his woman. He leaned in and he said, try it. I don't agree. I would rather never love anything than lose the chicken Mexi Melt. I promise I'm not going to play it again. I do want to say happy birthday as we wrap up the show to all of my fellow Marines. It is an honor to be considered one of you. I still think it's really cool that the vice president is one of us. I don't know how we allow that to happen, but I think it's really awesome. Go out tonight, or I shouldn't say that. Have fun tonight. Be safe. You're not 20 anymore, and we'll do it again tomorrow. That's all.